Francis Whitebird served in Vietnam as a medic in 1969 and 1970. He's going to tell the story. I can't tell it for him, but Paul Critchlow was wounded in Vietnam, and there was Francis Whitebird there for Paul Critchlow to help save his life. They have been friends ever since. One lives in New York and one lives in South Dakota. They are about as different as night and day, but they are the closest friends you'll ever find. Francis, come on up, Francis. So some of you who were at the 1982 dedication of the wall saw Francis up on stage, and I was one of those people. And I was so struck by Francis Whitebird and what he did. He conducted a centering ceremony for us, and he told us to face east, and then he told us to face west and south and north. I don't know if it was in that order. But it was so spiritual. It was so perfect for that moment, and I've never forgotten Francis, so I invited him to do it for our dedication of our monument in 1993. Most of us Vietnam veterans feel very connected to our brother and sister Native American veterans. They are true warriors. They went places where no one else wanted to go. They were brave. I took care of many of them in my hospital in Pleiku and in Vung Tau. And I have to say, yes, they were all gorgeous, and I didn't love them because they were all gorgeous, but I loved them because they were special. They really were. And so when I invited David to the dedication, then I needed to introduce him. Now he's going to be embarrassed. I said, I need your bio. I knew nothing about him except he was Native American. He was a medic. He was a neighbor in South Dakota. I lived in Minnesota. So I said, you have to send me your bio. So I get a paragraph, and the first 99% of the paragraph said all about all his ancestors who were warriors. It was nothing about him. It was, this ancestor did that, and this ancestor did that, and they were all warriors. And then the last sentence said, MBA from Harvard University. And I'm like, is that a typo? I called David, I called Francis. I said, Francis, I didn't even know if you graduated from high school. Not that it matters, but what is this? Oh, I said, it's nothing. Well, I think it's a lot. And so I'll let them share the story with Paul Critchlow.
Hello. So I want to thank Diane and everyone for being here, and certainly for inviting me to join Francis in talking about this memorial and what it means to us. And before I say a few words about Francis and let him take over, I wanted to just give a few of my thoughts, which is that this is such a day for me of things coming full circle. When I went to Vietnam and was seriously wounded in 1969 and came back, as I'm sure most of the veterans here experienced, it was not a welcoming environment, even in my own conservative state of Nebraska. It was surprising how many people kind of didn't want to, hang out with me or anything. But when I got involved with the Vietnam Memorial, it was years before I went to actually see the wall. And there I met Jan Scruggs, the founder, who incidentally has been a major supporter for Diane and the creation of this memorial. And that began a healing process for me, because I found others like you there that I could talk with. I felt comfortable, and I felt like I was making progress. When I got involved through the wall with Diane, I was really happy to be part of the early group of people who tried to raise money to make this happen, and it was really a thrilling experience for me to see it happen, and that was another step in the healing process. I would say that the feelings that I have for the women who served in Vietnam, or even during the Vietnam era, the ones who performed all of the military specialties that had to be performed, but also especially the nurses, when I was quite seriously wounded, and when I came to, I woke up in a field hospital, and then I was transferred to a hospital in Da Nang, the naval hospital in Da Nang, even though I was Army. And from there on out, for the next 6 months, in various hospitals, including the Great Lakes Naval Hospital, the nurses were nothing short of miracle workers for me, because, like many people who were injured, I was distraught and distressed and depressed, and they were sort of living links to the outside world. The doctors did a great job of patching us up, but they were there to not only give us health care, but to let us know that there was life beyond all of this. And so I'm so grateful, Diane, to you and to everybody who performed those roles. Full circle, I also have here with me a good friend of mine. We were in high school together, Dale Brockmeyer. Dale, if you'll just raise your hand, served with the Marines in Vietnam, and it's just been so amazing to reconnect with him. A few words about Francis. Francis and I were very different. As Diane said, I thought I was a lot smarter than him because, he was so modest about himself. I mean, I went to Nebraska University, and there are people there who thought that the N on the helmet stood for knowledge. So later, when I found out that Francis had a master's degree from Harvard, I was put back into my place. Francis was a great warrior, is a great warrior in the best traditions of the Lakota. He started every morning. I was by the way, the recon sergeant and then the acting FO in my infantry company with the 196 Light Infantry Brigade of the Americal Division. We were in the Central Highlands, and Francis was kind of a beacon of hope and light for all of us. Whenever he was around, the troops felt much safer. He exuded confidence. He had a certain power and presence about him, and so we were always happy if he was near us. He woke up every morning and said, "It's a great day to die." And I would look at him and I would say, "Are you fucking crazy?" But that's what he did, and it gave me confidence to go out there. When I was wounded, of course, Francis was there to help me and support me and get me out of there, and we bonded. We bonded. We were best friends in the company, and we bonded for the past 49 years. We've stayed in touch. Our families have traveled back and forth from New York to South Dakota, and Francis caused me to be adopted into the Lakota tribe. So, and then inducted me into the Red Feather, the Lakota Red Feather Warrior Society, and gave me an Indian name, Mazasu Wahachunka Chungleska, which means he who protects the brothers with a wall of lead. That's because I was an FO. And he calls me Misoon, which is little brother, and I call him Chie, which is big brother. So I love this man with all my life. He's been there for me. He has saved my life. I'm indebted beyond words, and it's an honor to be standing up here with him. So thank you. Chie.
I heard some Navajo speak, so I thought I'd throw in a few Lakota words here then. Talking about World War I, the old man who raised me was a veteran of World War I. My father was a World War II Lakota code talker. In World War I, we had 41 Lakota code talkers. And in World War II, we had 71. So we, as Lakota people, we helped win America win the war when Lakota people were not citizens of this United States in World War I. We became citizens in 1924 through the 14th Amendment. And in World War II, my father was a Lakota code talker, and he was at the Battle of the Bulge. So I have, they've set very high standards for me, and I had to go up that ladder to try and be as good as they were. And I'll tell you what, before I went to Vietnam, the old man who raised me said, he said, people get killed in war. He said, then don't do anything shameful, because it's going to come back. It's going to come back to the family. It's an old warrior adage, and so he sprung that one on me. But that wasn't so bad. When I had to tell my two sons the same thing in the Iraq War, that was tough. And my older son got wounded. He got shot in Baghdad by a sniper. And that was, to me, a very painful and very scary moment. But as a medic, I asked him where he got shot, and so he told me, and I said, well, chances are there's not going to be any big permanent damage. The shot came and just hit him outside that body armor and tore out his muscle in the back. He has to come back, and they tried to give him a medical discharge, but he wouldn't take it. He wanted an honorable discharge, and so he came back and served his time. He was with the 2nd Infantry Division. And now he has graduated from college with honors and is working for the state of South Dakota. So she's doing well. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. And one of them is Dear John letters. As a medic, I tried to keep tabs on everyone. I was a platoon medic for 2 months, and the casualty rate for medics was so high that I made company medic in 2 months as a Spec 5 or Spec 3. PFC. So then they promoted me to Spec 4, and 2 months later I became Spec 5. It's just a longevity thing. If you live long enough, you can make rank. So I was lucky. Dear John letters. Whenever someone gets them, their concentration is all out of whack, and we have what they call John Wayne syndrome. And what they do is they try to go out in a blaze of glory. And so what I would do is, and I had to coordinate it with the captain and the people in the rear and the sergeant, that we would say, well, you have to go back, and they lost your medical record. They want you to take care of it. So we would send them back, get them drunk for about 2-3 days, and when they sobered up and it was not a threat to anybody, including themselves, they would kick them back out. That was one of them, and not many people write about it in the war books and stuff. And the other one I call invited foxhole dinners. And what this is on my birthday, my sister-in-law had sent a huge can of Dinty Moore beef stew. Now for you grunts out there, you can't hump that sucker. It's too big. So what we do is we invite our friends over and just eat the whole thing right there. And then she sent cookies, so we had to, it was all crumbled up, so we all had a handful of cookies, and we thought that was really great, because it came from home. And the last thing is, every once in a while I would run into one of my grunts, and he'd tell me, thank you for saving my life. And I tell him, I'm not the only one. I said, I got you out of there, but there's the medic on a chopper, and then there's the nurses there and the doctors and the other care. And they would say, well, you're the one who pulled me out of the fire, and you're the only one that I know. The other nurses, I wish I'd have gotten their names. I could say thank you. And I tell them, just go up to any nurse and say thank you, because they had really spent a lot of time doing that. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I know that Diane isn't listening. She's over there, and I'm going to lay it back on her. Thank you.
Great job.
When they dedicated the three fighting men, I had called Jan Scruggs, and I said, hey, you're missing an Indian over there. And he said, well, what would you like to do? So I said, we have a prayer called the centering prayer. We center ourselves. And so he said, well, why don't you do that? So I came and did the centering prayer, and that is where the nurses, Diane and them, heard the prayer, and they asked me to do it. And I came back in '93, which was 25 years ago. And so if all of you can follow directions, we'll do the centering prayer. And if you can't follow directions, kind of look at the people around you so you can see what you're doing. I'll use my this red eagle feather in my tribe, and Paul has one of these. And this is like a purple heart. No, it's not like. It is a purple heart, and it existed before 1934, so this is one of the original ones. So anyway, if you all turn west, we'll do the centering. Everybody face that way. West. We asked God to look this way. Grandfather who sits out in where the sun goes down. We asked him for his generosity so that we can share our love, share whatever we have with people, and comfort those people who need it. A quarter turn to the north. We asked the grandfather who sits up north and paints his face white. We asked him for the buffalo spirit so that we can face our problems, face on, and not back down. And we asked him for fortitude so that we can deal with our issues. And we turn to the east, where the grandfather paints his face red. We asked him for love for our family, friends. We asked him so that we can share this love and that we can continue to exist as people. And we turn to the south, where the grandfather who paints his face yellow. That is where the death moves from north to south, and that is the direction where our spirits will go when we go to the spirit world. And we look up where the grandfather paints his face blue. We ask the grandfather to give us the vision of the eagle so that we can fly high, see all around us, so that we can make the best decisions for our family and friends. And we looked down towards the earth, and we asked grandmother through Mother Earth. She gives us everything. She paints her face green. And that as we center ourselves today in this town in D.C., we center ourselves in the environment, and from our hearts, we ask the Creator to comfort those who need it, to give direction to those who require. And we also ask that we share our love and our generosity for those people who are around us, our family, friends. We ask this through the names of all of our relatives. Amen.